Hello. Hello, my name's Chris from gamesindustry.biz and welcome back to EGX. Now, before Sea of Thieves, before Viva Pinata, before Banjo, before Donkey Kong Country, there were the Battletoads. Rare's action genre mashup featured 7 games and 1 cartoon over just 3 years. But outside of guest appearances in Shovel Knight and Killer Instinct and on Phil Spencer's t-shirt, Rash, Zitz and Pimple haven't starred in their own game in 25 years, until now. UK studio Delilah, with support from Rare, are bringing the Toads back. I've played it and it is shaping up beautifully. And to share more about the creation of the game, the art and the animation, please welcome AJ, Lucy and Eric.
Hello, thank you very much. The problem with having Chris introduce you is he's much more eloquent and just generally good with the English language. So we're going to probably look really rubbish after that. So thanks for that, Chris. Yeah, this is super awesome to be here. I've said it before quite a few times, but this is literally a dream project for me. You know, when I started a studio, on my bucket list was making a new Battletoads. And obviously, when you make a bucket list entry like that, you never really feel like you're going to get to live it out. This is really the first time we're publicly speaking about the game kind of to this extent. Obviously, we've done E3 and Gamescom and a couple of shows already, where we're very much focused on the playable build at the time. But for this kind of, we wanted to go behind the scenes a little bit. 40 minutes is, for some parts, a lot. For a lot of other parts, it's quite a short amount of time. So when I was looking at kind of what to focus this on, I thought, what are the kind of things that we're doing that kind of might be able to bring something interesting, something to give action points or elements for people to walk away with. And one of my favorite things about the game and about a lot of the stuff we do in general is kind of our pipeline from the creation of a character in a script through to character design, through to the animation being implemented. And I'm going to speak really positively about that because my animation director's here and half our animation team's over there. Hi, Rumpus.
Rumpus.
But yeah, so this is super awesome to be able to do this. So I'm not going to go on about myself for too long, even though I can. But my name's AJ Grant Scrutton. Delilah is my baby, and I'm the game director on Battletoads. So effectively, I do none of the work and take all of the credit. So if you save all your applause for me at the end, that would be highly appreciated. So a quick overview. Battletoads is a 2/2.5D genre mashup game, which really sounds like a collection of buzzwords when you say it out loud. So I kind of wanted to give a slight amount of definition on what that really means. So genre mashup for us is kind of how it sounds. Like, the core of our Battletoads experience is the side-scrolling combat. You know, that's where a lot of our focus has gone. And then we've been kind of accenting it with these exciting set pieces. So anyone who's played the demo build or seen any of the footage knows we've done a new interpretation of the turbo tunnel. We've kind of done this behind view bike, but we're also doing a lot of other genres, and that includes everything from traditional 2D platforming to race levels to perspective shifting boss fights. And then the 2/2.5D part, click, thank you. 2.5D is a strange one. I think it's definitely a buzzword. It's a bit of a catch-all. In the sense, for us, the way we're using it, it means that the world is actually built in 3D space, but the assets themselves are all 2D. So we're doing hand-drawn environments, hand-drawn animations, and then placing them into a 3D world. As you can see from these incredibly awful screenshots I took myself. Apologies for the quality of this. I put together the PowerPoint presentation, and I probably should have let somebody with at least a slight amount of artistic eye do it themselves. So as I said, kind of hand-drawn animation environments and animations. In terms of the style, a heavy influence when we were looking to do this was Saturday morning cartoons and the shows from when we were kids. We grew up loving, you know, the Cartoon Network shows. We grew up loving kind of Dexter's Lab and Earthworm Jim and Johnny Bravo, and then also kind of the stuff on Nickelodeon, you know, like Ren and Stimpy, Cat Dog, the really kind of abstract, stupid cartoons like that were just all about fun. And that took a really heavy influence on kind of the direction we wanted to take the game in when we started making it. And then, of course, there's like our team's heritage, kind of where our skill set lies and what we've done before really heavily influenced that. And tied to that is kind of Mike Dietz. So E will probably mention this a little bit, but Mike was the animation director on games like Earthworm Jim, Aladdin, Cool Spot, and he was also one of E's first bosses when he worked on Earthworm Jim. And Mike's been a great friend of ours, and when we first started working on the initial pitch to Rare, it was Mike and Ed who kind of came in and were working on the initial character designs with us. And Mike's drawing has a very certain flavour, so we kind of took a lot of influence from Mike, from Eric's kind of style of animation he wanted to achieve with this, which he'll probably talk about, and then kind of just what we wanted to achieve from kind of a gameplay perspective. And that's kind of really how we landed on the style we have taken for the game as a whole, and also the characters themselves. Cool. So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of step through the processes. This is very conversational. Like, having notes here is more prepared than I've ever been for a talk in the last 7 years. So I'm not saying you should feel honoured, just know that I am trying and I apologise. My two lovely team members to the side of me are going to actually talk about the stuff because they know about it. So I'm just going to basically cue them up and let them go for it. The first part we're going to cover is the character design itself. So I'll do the first little bit and then hand over. The big thing for us, and it seems like a given, but it is really important to call out, is that everything in the game has to work together. You know, you can't just have a game that's pretty and then the gameplay gets left behind. You also don't want to have a game where you've created this perfectly balanced, immersive content and then the art can't reflect that. So when every single part of the game, every single part of our process, we're making sure that everything can work hand in hand together. I do know what I'm talking about. I'm definitely not looking at the slide. Cool. So the first part of the process is I'll work with the lead writer and the writers on kind of, we establish the script, the characters that are going to be in each part of the game, and we start trying to look to establish what characters we want to start the design process on. For cutscenes, this is very heavily involving the writers. For characters that are in-game, combat-related, this is more a conversation between myself and the level designers and the gameplay designers. It's important, obviously, our character styles reflect what they're going to be doing. Cool. So the next part, supposedly, is I'll write a brief to give to Lucy, basically, which has, you know, the elements I want to be contained within the character, the elements kind of this character has to do. Horribly for Lucy, usually it's me sending a message over Slack that's like, oh, wouldn't it be really great if we had a character that had 4 ears and 3 eyes? Oh, also he has to do all this stuff by. And that's the standard of brief I give. Somehow it comes out really great the other side, and if I hadn't mentioned this, I probably could have took all the credit again. But, you know, win some, lose some. And then the next part is the initial kickoff meeting. So this is kind of, especially for our more complex characters or those key characters that are doing something really different to what we've already achieved, me and Lucy will basically get on a call and talk through that character. And now I'm going to hand over to you. So do you want to introduce yourself and then talk through your stuff, and I'll put images up at the right time?
Yeah, cool. I'll use that as my cheat sheet. So, hi everyone. My name is Lucy. My name is Lucia Kiriakidu. People call me Lucy. And I'm the lead character designer on Battletoads. I've worked in games for 9 years now. So, I like to think I kind of know what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm not really that exciting other than I draw characters. I do a lot of stuff like in like the game dev community, like for diversity, and I'm passionate about body bias in games. So yeah, but other than that, I just draw. That's my work. Yeah, so AJ was right when he said the brief's horribly loose. Like, I look at his notes, and that's way more than I get on like each character brief. But I feel like we usually know, like, we understand each other, so we know what's happening.
Well, you do a good job, and then I say that's exactly what I meant at the end of it.
So when I get the brief, I usually just start with just really rough drawings and kind of really put into paper anything that comes to mind. And like all like the words that have been like sent to me, just trying to put them like in a visual way, like and have some kind of storytelling like in the design itself. So when you look at a character, you can kind of guess, like either like the environment they're from, or like how they may hurt you, I guess. We also look at the shapes of the characters, because a lot of characters may be on screen at a time. So it's important to have like clean shapes and very unique silhouettes. Initially, I think when I first started working on this, I took a lot of your input on this.
Yeah,
Just to,
Hi, I'm Eric, everybody. The thing that is good about working with AJ is he doesn't always know what he wants, but he knows what he doesn't want. And that's a very, very helpful thing. And then kind of chatting, that's always a great starting point. And then with Lucy and him kind of rapping on stuff, I just usually will come in and be like, this shape would work good for this would work good for that. We might want to refine this, we might want to change this. These are the reasons why. He usually raps. He gives me a bunch of design input, like, hey, this is what I'm thinking for attacks, these are the reasons why, this is kind of what this character serves gameplay-wise. And then I usually chime in a bit with both of them. And I don't usually do much steering, maybe like refining, maybe ideas, questions, comments, concerns kind of a thing. Like try and poke holes and stuff sooner rather than later, because once we kind of get into production, it's a different story at that point. Most of the time it works. Sometimes it does. Sometimes
Definitely.
It does.
I mean, with this stuff we're going to show in particular as well, obviously the bits this side of me are kind of some of the initial Toad work we did. And then to the side of that, we're going to kind of take through the story of a different character. So the brief for this was definitely loose. This was, without giving too much spoilers, there's a race of gymnasts.
No. There was no race of gymnasts.
Oh, there was no race at this point?
There was a race of something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this was a charger, is that right? This was the charger
Yes.
one.
Yeah.
So we knew this was going to be a charger character, so we knew we wanted like a brutish character that was going to do damage by running. And obviously my brief was even looser than I'd written down in my notes, which means my notes are in fact more detailed than the brief. But yeah, so this then was the first pass, and then...
Yeah, and then we kind of realized that we really like kind of the, I guess, robot operator look. And then when you find this kind of idea that you really like, we kind of take it further, and Ages, like, can we do some more, like, try like a few different ways that it can be like operating the robot. So it's kind of like refining what we, like the loose sketches like that we had at the beginning, started to get a better idea of what we actually want, and like what would work in the game and in the environments and everything.
Yeah, and this is a really cool stage. Like, we're showing only a handful here, but for each character, Lucy probably ends up generating 30 plus ideas.
Yeah. 5 sheets worth of stuff,
Yeah.
and you're like, this is all amazing. I can't choose one, but I have to.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, it means that we've got this lovely plethora of kind of all these characters, and we get a chance to go back to them. And, you know, it's lovely for me to have incredible artists working where I can just start going, oh, I really like that guy's ear and that guy's legs. Will those ears and legs work together? You know, and it means me with literally no talent, I can't even draw a stick man. I'm able to kind of be part of this process with just like incredible characters appearing.
Yeah, and in some more difficult, and I think some more main characters, I tend to start with mood boards, like, because sometimes we talk about certain influences, so they're usually ridiculous, but it kind of helps keep me on track.
And Mean Girls gets referenced a hell of a lot more than it should.
Yes, the bad design to Regina George scale. Yes. So next we take it to turnarounds. So the animation team knows what is in my head, I guess. And this is, I would say, the most challenging part, because I need to take like this thing I've sketched out and figure out how it works in like from every angle. And I'm sure most character designers hate the side view, because I really hope it's not just me. Sometimes things just don't look right to me, but like it's important to know like what it looks like from like every angle. And we have some. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So for some of the more important characters, or that we get to see more of, we do construction sheets and expression sheets. And something that's very important in the designs that in all our characters is the straight lines versus the curves. So I think this is a good example, like how you create structure with the lines, and then you create the movement and the body, like the mass with the curves. And we also use a lot of less soft curves and more harsh curves, which I never thought I would be talking about curves on the stage, but these are important things because again, game development is something that you don't do alone. Like other people are going to take what you've created, and they need to know how to recreate, I guess, because it may go to a few animators.
Yes, it does.
And expression sheets are my personal favorite because that's when you really get to see the character's personality come through. And I always have like little ideas of what the characters are like. So I just like to put it in little. I just like the expression sheets. Sometimes we also do pose sheets, especially for characters that are going to be like full body on the screen and not like cutscenes. Again, for animation purposes, and yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. Color code.
So this is a challenge in our games at times, to say the least. We use a lot of colours. Obviously, we've only shown really the environment from the first combat area and from the reimagining of the turbo tunnel area. But we are big on having just this amazing kind of colour script for the entire game, so that kind of if you look to each scene start to finish, you can just see this amazing palette that's been used. That is a gift and a curse, especially when it comes to choosing the colours for the characters.
I think this is where the character design team and like the environment team get to work quite closely. Because these characters don't just stand alone, like they need to be in the environments and like stand out and or not stand out, I guess, for NPCs. But yeah, it's just working together to figure out the best way. And so when you look at them on the screen, you kind of instantly, well, first of all, see them and know who they are. But
Yes. Yeah, the colors are really hard. It takes a lot of refinement. There's definitely some back and forth. Our amazing cleanup crew, I'm sorry, I'll just say that in advance. Just because there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of frames, there's a lot of drawings, there's no shortcuts, so it's a lot. It's a lot.
I think that's where
good.
it helps to have like the simple shapes, because like
Yep.
it helps with the coloring as well of those shapes. Because if you have a lot of like little bits sticking out, like the shading will be a nightmare, I imagine. I don't do that, but like I imagine it'll be hard.
I think through subconsciously we've come to a few points where Lucy was saying big shapes, big groups of color. How do they look together in a group? How do they look on the environment? Are they clear for gameplay? Does it enhance the gameplay? Is it appealing? Does it help the animation? A lot of this, to be honest, we've just kind of stumbled across it. I think we've had it in the back of our heads, but just going through the process numerous times and failing a lot and succeeding some, we've kind of gotten to a point now where we can tell a lot sooner than originally when we started. So yeah, that's been super educational for me. Also, like helping direct the animators and the cleanup crew, it's very helpful as well.
Yeah, and I think that's something important to call out as well. There's sometimes this this want to keep up this magical wall to make it think that everything's perfect and kind of, you know,
It's a
we knew
farce.
exactly what we were doing from the start, and it's been this perfect process all the way through. But it's not. It's completely iterative, and
Very iterative.
even until the point we go gold, you know, we're still looking at ways to improve the process, improve kind of the quality that we're doing. And, you know, even now when we look back at what we did in pre-production, the game now is just so far beyond what we were even looking to achieve then. So it's really important for us that we don't get precious and we don't get hung up on kind of, you know, oh, this is how we did it then and we signed it off then. We can't ever look at that again. You know, and we're always looking at the game as a whole, and context, we'll come on to this kind of in the challenges section, but context is so important. And obviously when you're building something that is a genre mashup game that has kind of these influences, it means that as you're building these new parts and fitting it all together to make it a whole, the context can sometimes make you look back on what you've done previously and kind of need to go in and fine-tune. Yeah, exactly.
We need to change that. That's not going to work. Yeah.
So the last thing we ever want to do is kind of sit up here and say, you know, we're the experts. We know what we're doing and we never make mistakes. I like to think that the team I have are 100% experts in what they do, and our partners, people like Rumpus, are experts in what they do. But we all make mistakes, and we make mistakes regularly. And that's why the game's getting better. Like, I feel like if we didn't believe we were making mistakes, then the project wouldn't be any further along than it is on day one.
Yeah. We're not growing at that point. I mean, for me, my name's Eric Ciccone. I'm the animation director guy. I make things
We've
move.
not got to your part yet.
Now I'm on. See? Oh, I knew that. I sensed it. So I've been making games over 20 years. My first gig was on Earthworm Jim. I was an entry-level ink and paint, cleanup, did a lot of pixel stuff. Mike Dietz was definitely my mentor at Schofield. That whole team, they kind of taught me just how to make games and how to animate. Definitely a road less traveled, I guess you could say. All that stuff that AJ just said about making mistakes and being iterative and going back, for me, a lot of people will disagree with this, but that's why I like making games. That's why I like doing what I do. If it was easy and if it was all figured out at the start, to me, it's kind of like, what's the point? It's about, you know, cheesy as it sounds, it's about going through the process and the journey, because what I had in my mind when I came over here a year ago to work with AJ and all that, it's infinitely better than I thought or I could think. And then adding Lucy obviously is only added to that. So if you want it all figured out, you might want to do something else. But if you're up for it and you're up for the adventure and, you know, the what the heck moments and like, oh, how are we going to fix this? Or that looks amazing. I wasn't even thinking of that. So anyways, I'll go back to the slide.
Cool. Do you want me to cue this one up and then?
Click buttons. I'll yak. I talk to AJ a lot. I probably bug him a lot. Again, one of his greatest assets for me on animation is knowing what he doesn't want most of the time. And if he doesn't, we usually figure that out really quick. I think having Lucy helps inform that, so that happens very, very quickly. And doing 2D games as opposed to 3D games, which I've done before, that's more critical path, because going back to redesign things after these wonderful people at Rumpus have started animating stuff, it's a bigger ask, and it's a lot more work. So what does he want? What is the focus of this enemy? What does he need to do? I don't know. I do know this, and I just kind of refine and go from there. Initial pencil tests. So Luke, Rumpus, did these amazing pencil tests for this character. So happy accident. I saw this. I was like, man, what a great character, this and that. And I just came with these ideas like, how do we have this bipolar little pink lady driving this super mech suit with a gymnast jumpsuit? And I said, crazy, needs to look insane, but needs to be super robotic. And then that's really about all I kind of give. And I'm a big believer in like pointing people in directions. And if people are into it, they'll come back with something that I was like not thinking that's better. And that has definitely been the case with my animators. Yep, I did these. Rubber chicken fist was just like a test for, it's like a big kind of bash up. AJ had an idea. I kind of roughed it out, and I just kind of went from there. The taunt, Rash is just really into himself. And I wanted to do a breakdance move. And I wanted to hand animate it and see if I could do it. So we did it, and it looks pretty funny. Yeah, so we get those in, we implement them, we flood fill them. They're just basically sketches. We flood fill it with white. We run it through a tool. We trim it in Unity. We get it all in. AJ goes, yes, no, maybe so. We address any changes, things that we need to do. Go back to animation, modify exposures, stuff like that. And at that point, if it's in, it's playable, it feels good. If it's stuff that's on buttons, that's a little bit more of a process for our combat and things like that, because it's so, a frame makes a difference. And a lot of times you'll have to go back. For me, like what we're trying to do, what I want to try and do with the animation is, I'm kind of coming from Tex Avery world a little bit, and I think that serves games very well. Smear frames, big overshoot, smear frames, swipes, all that stuff works really well for games, because that's how you get feel and squish and the timing right on like one or two drawings, and that's basically what we're dealing with. And he likes it, so that's been good.
Yeah, it's worth calling out here as well that for kind of the last 5 years, our tech team has been creating and iterating kind of our animation pipeline.
Amazing
and so
tech team.
The tools we have, obviously, we're building on top of Unity, and the tools we have make our lives a lot easier. Like, it allows us to tweak exposures very quickly, drop and add the actual drawings very, very quickly, and do it in live play mode as well. So we're actually able to put it in the game, play the game with these, these roughed pencil tests. And as soon as we're pressing the button, we can quickly figure out, okay, there's too much anticipation on that, let's trim it. And sometimes we're lucky, and sometimes just using the drawings we have and changing the exposures, we still end up with what we want. And sometimes we go, do you know what, like, this, what we've created, this Cronenberg of an animation is the right timing, but we probably need to take it back to the animator and get them to tweak some of the drawings now.
Usually we're pretty good first pass. I'd say we have like a 60-40, I'd say, success rate, which is pretty good. Again, cleaned up by our amazing friends at Rumpus. So once it goes there, it's in the game. These guys hook it up. The AI is built. AJ plays it in the level. We like it. Then it starts getting cleaned up. And I think the results speak for themselves, really. All by amazing artists, much better than I am. So we re-export it. It's basically, everything is in pencil test form. We try and get as much of that in the game to start with. Test, iterate, prove, break, whatever. Sometimes it doesn't always work out like that because we're doing lots of things at once and we don't have that option. But that's, that's the goal, the ideal kind of goal. And then once it goes from there, it gets cleaned up and it looks really good, and all those images and sprites are replaced by the final stuff. So, ta-da! And here we are. So yeah, there's nothing, I can say this, right? There's nothing flash in the game. Everything is hand key. It's all hand drawn. Environments, characters. I don't know of any other game that is doing that, or maybe has done it to the level that we've done it at. I mean, it's a lot. There's no cutting corners. But that's to me, again, that's like super exciting. Like, it's something that hasn't been done. I mean, at this point in my career, I never thought I started in 2D, and I never thought I'd really get a chance to go back and do it as a game. And once I had the chance, and AJ was like, yeah, this is going to happen. I mean, how can you not do this? This is like a dream come true for any artist or animator. It's like, yes, of course. We're going. I'm coming. I'll be there soon.
I mean, as a studio, getting a chance to not only create the new Battletoads, but actually, Rare being all in and basically letting us do it in our way, on our style, in 2D, you know, as he said, I'm obsessed with 2D animation. I can't draw at all, but I just love 2D animation. You know, very lucky, thanks to a mutual friend called Uncle Lou, that dropped Eric on my lap, who in turn dropped Mike Dietz and Ed Schofield with them. So kind of getting to kind of work with these amazing guys who worked on Earthworm Jim, which is literally one of the greatest games ever made. I can see Luke nodding. It's just fantastic, and kind of being able to kind of work in this pipeline where, you know, gameplay is king is thrown around a lot, and gameplay is king, but like just where everything works together and every department is aware of every other department. No one's trying to kind of be the best individual, the best team. Everyone just wants the best game. It's definitely the first time in my career that I've ever kind of had this experience on a project. And
Yeah,
you know,
I would agree, 100%.
and rare aren't here, but kind of the partnership is fantastic, and kind of I won't talk about it too much because I don't know if I'm even allowed at this point. He says, looking at the camera, hi Paul and Paul. But you know, this is a passion project, and it's a passion project down from kind of us in the trenches all the way through up to kind of the upper echelons of Microsoft, and it's just fantastic. And I just really hope that that comes out in the work when everyone sees the game. We've got the final countdown clock up. I thought it'd be quite interesting for us if we've actually covered quite a few of them.
Yeah.
But if we just touched on a few, like the challenges we have because we've made these choices, because we're doing the game this way. I don't know if either of you want to jump in with anything off of this list. I mean, my name in the middle isn't me being egotistic. When we had the meeting to discuss challenges, and both of them raised me as one of the biggest challenges.
AJ is a force of nature. This is true, but in all the right reasons and ways. Yeah, I mean, being able to let AJ creatively direct, which is what he needs to do, as painful as the changes are and as hard as they are, I know it's always coming from, this is going to make it better, this is going to make the experience better, this is going to make visually things look better. He sells himself short as far as the visual end, but knowing what you don't want is so important, and that's a really helpful thing. So seeing the game holistically is something that you're only going to learn, I think, by making a lot of mistakes. Being super focused on a specific animation is great, and making it clear, and the passive action, the timing, and all these things, and appealing. But once it's in context to like the frame, the level, the other enemies, the VFX, all that stuff, you know, there's a really large chance that you're going to have to go back and rework it. Knowing when to expect that and seeing that early is a really good thing, and that's a hard thing to see. I mean, I've been doing it a while, and I still go, why did I do that? What was I thinking? Why? And then other reasons I'll be like, oh yeah, that's why. But that's a really tough thing to do, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we've had characters that we've done them, we've fully animated them, we've put them in game. The level's been balanced and they work perfectly, and it's like, hurrah, we're awesome. And we've had other characters that we've...
Why is this so hard? Why won't this character work?
Yeah.
What's going on?
And the character will look awesome, and it looks awesome kind of on paper, and it looks awesome when you put it in the game on its own, and then suddenly you're fighting 9 of them, and you realise, oh, we should not put that level of detail, or why has that guy got a hammer literally the size of the rest of the Toads?
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, it's like we said about context, like, it can look good in the game and feel good in the game, and then suddenly you balance the game fully, and that level plays start to end like it should, and you go, dang damn it, like, we're going to have to go back to this guy.
Yeah, I mean, I was taught early on, and I was pretty fortunate for this, like someone told me, nothing matters until it's in the game, until it's into the context of the game and how we want it to work, so expect the unexpected.
I mean, it's hard, I guess, for pre-production when you've spent so long making these characters, and they're like,
Sorry, Lucy.
we're going to redesign them.
But you do send us 5 sheets, so we always have an option.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll try and sneak them in and hope Lucy doesn't notice that she's having to redesign a character she designed
never
6
know.
months ago.
Oh, but she will.
But yeah, and obviously changes late in the day for us is kind of 3D animation is super hard. Like, I'm not taking away from 3D animation.
Yep, absolutely.
But obviously for us, if we're changing any animation, it's literally redrawing from scratch quite often.
They're just 2 different problems with tough solutions, so yeah.
I just realised I put the same thing twice there. Look at that. obviously made a
Revisiting,
good
polishing
point.
previous
That's
content.
fine. It's just extra hard.
So yeah, we'll be doing a lot of revisiting and polishing previous content. I see that in my future. And that's a good thing, because it's only going to make the game better. I can say one thing. How I drew at the start of the project to how I draw now, night and day. Our time is up. We have flashing red
Time
numbers.
is up.
We do.
Go, Lucy, go.
Yeah, so just before we finish, kind of, oh wait, there we go. You know, I'll take this opportunity to say kind of thank you to the entire team working on the project. We are kind of, there's a big chunk of us at Delilah, but we also have an equally big chunk, if not bigger, that is spread kind of across the rest of the country working for us.
We do.
And we're very lucky that
Very
kind
lucky.
of, we don't use these traditional outsourcing relationships where we write a brief, send it off and get it back. Like everyone to us is like Lucy and Rumpus. Like everyone is just part of the Delilah team, whether they're in the office or not.
Yes.
And yeah, this is completely a project of passion, and I'm really excited. We're going to be talking more about it, showing some more behind the scenes stuff. I'm sure there's plenty of questions, and there will be a time and a place to answer those questions one day. But yeah, kind of, I just want to say, obviously, thank you to
Thank
everyone
you.
who's come to watch this.
Yep.
Thank you to everyone
Thank you to all
watching
our
on
wonderful
Twitch.
People.
Yeah,
here.
thank you to our kind of our
Rumpus.
Discord and our Reddit communities who are kind of very active and keeping us on our toes, and we are always paying attention and promise we'll answer
Keeping
those
us
questions
honest.
one day. But yeah, we're very thankful to get the chance to come up here on stage and talk to you about our game, and hopefully, if nothing else, you got to see some cool behind the scenes kind of pencil tests and characters. So thanks to Eric and Lucy, and thank you very much for watching.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.